Thank you for staying till the end to listen to me. It's an absolute pleasure and honor to be here today, but I must say it's actually quite a daunting task to come to TEDxIE of all places to talk about education in front of so many students, education professionals, and professors, particularly since I'm not a teacher. So why am I talking about this? Well, I am, as I'm sure many of you are, very passionate about education, but perhaps for slightly different reasons. First reason is that I absolutely hated school with a passion. By the time I left school, I felt like all the desire to learn and the curiosity had really been sapped out of me. But having said that, I thought that one of the best ways that I could affect positive change in the world would be by being a teacher, and actually that was my first job. But the reason that I'm really passionate about this subject is because now I have skin in the game. These are my kids. They are going to be joining the world of work in approximately 15 years' time. And what that means is that I need to start making decisions today about how I raise them and their education to prepare them for a world which is going to be very, very different tomorrow. But the message that I want to give you today is that even if you don't have children, and even if you believe that you have finished your formal education, actually the changing nature of work is going to affect every single one of you. So you really should be interested in how jobs are going to change into the future. I work for a design and innovation consultancy based here in Madrid, and we do a lot of work with international clients. And very often, that entails having to imagine the world as it might be in 10 or 15 years' time. Very often, our clients ask us questions like, what is the future of mobility? What is the future of banking? And recently, we had a client ask us, what is the future of work? Because they wanted us to help them design the future workplace. As part of that project, we did some research and we talked to managers in the US, EU, and Asia. And I've extracted some of the learnings from that project that I'd like to share with you today about what the future of work is going to look like. And I put it under three main headings: greater automation, increased flexibility, and purpose with a profit. So to begin with greater automation, I think that this is something that we hear a lot about, and certainly the people that we spoke to were of the opinion that already we're seeing greater automation in cognitive tasks, in non-routine tasks, by using data analytics. But this, in their opinion, was only going to increase clearly by the use of AI. And the data seemed to back this up. There was a study done by the University of Oxford where they estimated that in the next 10 to 20 years, 47% of jobs that exist today are at high risk of being completely automated. But even in the shorter term, a study was done by the World Economic Forum in 2018, and they estimated by 2022 that actually 42% of the work done, what they call task hours, will be done by a computer. And that means that 40% of the skills required to do a job last year will have changed by 2022, and that means that 54% of the workforce is going to need to be reskilled. And guess who that is? That's you guys, right? So the world of work is very much going to change. And I think that this is worrying from a couple of different aspects. One, that the HR leaders that the World Economic Forum spoke to, only half of them were confident in their organization's ability to prepare for the new world of work, because number one, they didn't know what the challenges were going to be. Second, due to a lack of resources. And third, due to a focus on short-term profitability. Next, if we look at increased flexibility, we hear about this a lot, that people want more and more to work in flexible workspaces and work in companies that are more flexible and allow them to work from anywhere. But this is going to have a number of knock-on effects. The first one is that there's going to be less job security. The people that we spoke to said that there's going to be something which they call enforced flexibility, that even in the professions, we're going to end up working in a kind of gig economy. Second, with more flexibility, that means that there's going to be more remote work. We're going to be more on video calls, and we're going to be hiring talent from anywhere around the world. But then how's that going to affect the third point, which is as business problems become more complex, we're going to require teams to collaborate together, and we're going to need people to be more creative. So in that, what we heard is that there's going to be less individual work in the future, that face-to-face communication skills are going to be absolutely key and are going to be at a premium, in fact, and also that we're going to have to rethink the user experience of the office, not as a place that you go and work individually, but actually somewhere that helps you to collaborate. And the last point that I want to touch on under greater flexibility is thinking about the future of work. If we're able to intertwine our work and lives, actually what's going to happen is that we're going to end up always on. What one of the people that we spoke to called, rather than having a work-life balance, he has a work-work balance, where he tries to intertwine things that he enjoys into his work day, for example, meditating or listening to music. And the last point that I want to pick up from the report, from the research that we did, is profit with a purpose. More and more we heard from people saying that employees want to work for a company that sees them as an individual, sees them as a person, that is about more than profits, and is aligned with their personal values. So, if we believe that in the future work is going to be more automated, is going to be more flexible, and is going to be more focused on purpose, then how could we start thinking about redesigning education to prepare people for jobs that don't exist yet? What I've done is come up with 5 ideas or principles that I'd like you to take away and have discussions on and think more on. And those are these. Firstly, we need to nurture both sides of the brain. We need to think holistically. We need to embed purpose. We need to build resilience. And we also need to ignite curiosity. So firstly, in terms of nurturing both sides of the brain, as we see industries connect and collide more and more, what we are seeing is that companies need to come up with holistic solutions to these more complex business problems. And equally, what that means is that they're going to need people who bring not only hard skills or subject skills, but also soft skills or transferable skills. I certainly feel this every day because at our company, we pretty much only hire people who come from hybrid backgrounds. So, how many students do we have in the house today? A lot. Okay, so if you want to know how to future-proof yourself and think about what are the skills and the roles that are going to be most in demand, please get your notebooks out right now because this is the real concrete part of the presentation, okay? So I believe that those roles that are going to be most in demand in the short term and into the longer term are those roles, firstly, that require an enhanced use of technology. So here we're talking about data analytics, data science, software programmers, and things like e-commerce specialists. The second set of roles or skills will be those roles that require an understanding and a leveraging of emerging technologies. And these are the ones that we've heard a lot about today. So AI, machine learning, robotics, human-machine interface, blockchain, etc. But the last one, and perhaps the most important one, are those roles that leverage human skills. And when I talk about human skills, I'm talking about creativity, initiative, originality. And I believe that this is going to increase the demand for certain roles in sales, marketing, organizational development, training, and innovation. But clearly, if you want to future-proof yourself, the best way to do that is to combine as many of these as possible. Next, thinking holistically. Now, this is related to the previous point, but what I'd like to touch on here is something that the World Economic Forum says, that one of the problems that's actually holding us back in our education system and in our development is this false dichotomy that we have between the humanities on the one side and the sciences on the other. Recently, I found this tweet which I thought nicely summed up our problem. We've been told that we should be studying STEM, the humanities are worthless. And then suddenly we find ourselves in a situation where we have problems that technology alone cannot solve. So I really think that we need to take a holistic approach to the future problems that are going to be facing the world. That we need to have a renewed focus on principles and ethics, particularly with a focus on technology. Because yes, the fourth industrial revolution holds much promise, but it also holds many perils. For example, inequality and the potential for conflict. Next, embedding purpose. If we believe that the future of work is going to be more flexible, if we believe that in the future there's going to be little delineation between our life and work, isn't it important that we help students to find purpose in what they do and purpose in their work life? Rather than having them study just a hard subject skill and expect that in the future there's going to be a job waiting for them in a specific role. What I think we should be doing is helping students to find out what the big problem is that they want to solve and helping them to figure out how they can solve it. I think that this would have an absolutely transformative effect on motivation. The purpose of education shouldn't be just how to pass the next test. It should be making us aim higher. Next, building resilience. If we believe that the problems that we're going to be facing at work are going to be more complex in the future, doesn't that also then mean that we're more likely to fail and fail more often? If we believe that the world of work is going to become less secure and more flexible, doesn't that also mean that we're more likely to end up out of work at certain points in our career? I think it's one of the dirty little secrets of even one of the top institutions like IE that some of our top graduates have a lot of trouble finding work at certain points in their career. Shouldn't education take these issues head on and prepare people for these eventualities and also give them the mental tools to overcome adversity? There's this phrase in Japanese which I love, which is nana korobi yaoki, which means fall down 7 times, get up 8 times. And this is something that I practice with my own children. Literally, when they fall over, I don't help them up. Now, this has a number of different effects. The first one being that I get a lot of dirty looks in the park, but the second one being that actually they tend not to cry when they fall over. And there have been a number of studies that suggest that our perception of pain is actually subjective, and the way that we react to pain is dependent more on how we've been preconditioned to it and other people's reaction to it, particularly our parents. So when my kids fall over, they tend to dust themselves off, get back up, and just carry on what they were doing. And I often tell my son, that we love mistakes, because through mistakes, that's how we learn. I'm very cognizant of the fact that's not how schools are set up, and that's not how the testing system's set up. But shouldn't we really celebrate in education when somebody learns from having made a mistake the first time? And equally, shouldn't we be giving students the mental tools to overcome hardships and build more resilience? The last point that I want to touch on today is igniting curiosity. So if we've established that jobs are going to be consistently changing in the future and that it's not enough to just learn a subject, and that really what we ought to be doing is to have students understand how to learn and also be giving them the incentive and the passion and the desire to learn. That's why igniting curiosity is so important. What we do with our kids is every time they ask a why question, we make a note of it, and then we get them to come up with a hypothesis of the answer, and then we help them find out what the real answer is, and we're going to make it into a book. And some of the why questions they asked, I'll put up here. I'll give you a moment to look over it. But what you'll notice is that there's no dichotomy here between the humanities and the sciences, is there? I mean, they're just as interested in the humanities, like politics, why do countries go to war, and social studies, why do we wear a ring when we get married, as they are in the sciences, like paleontology, why did the dinosaurs go extinct? Or something which seems to be quite an obsession with my daughter in biology is, why do we fart? In his famous TED Talk, Sir Ken Robinson asks the question whether education kills creativity. I would respectfully argue that probably the problem is one step before that actually schools kill curiosity, and creativity flows from curiosity. Rather than expecting students to reach the end of their education and know everything that they need to know for the world of work, I would argue that it's more important that we help students to build a holistic view, use both sides of the brain, be good communicators, build resilience, embed purpose in what they do, think about ethics, and also ignite curiosity. To paraphrase Socrates, wisdom begins in wonder. I wish you all the best of luck in your careers. Thank you very much.